You won't believe what Ryan Reynolds did in Central Park. One minute he was walking his dog, and the next he was pulling a stroller out of the path of a speeding cyclist. But that's not even the craziest part. What he found next. It might have exposed a secret spy operation. This isn't a movie. It really happened, and you need to hear the full story. You won't believe what happened just moments after Ryan Reynolds stepped out for what seemed like a calm, ordinary walk with his dog. It was one of those golden afternoons in New York City, where the sunlight filters through the trees just right, and the air carries the perfect mix of warmth and breeze. Central Park was alive but not crowded. Joggers passed by with earbuds in, kids chased bubbles near the playground, and couples strolled hand in hand under the shade of tall oaks. It was a day built for quiet moments, and right in the middle of that calm, walking along a gravel path in jeans, a plain white t-shirt, and sunglasses, was Ryan Reynolds, one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. Known for his quick wit, charming smile, and iconic role as Deadpool, Ryan isn't exactly someone you'd expect to see without flashing cameras or screaming fans. But today, he was just another face in the park. Or at least, that's how it started. In his left hand was a coffee cup. In his right, a red leash, leading to a golden retriever with floppy ears and a curious nose. His name? Baxter. The dog looked every bit the part of a happy sidekick, tail wagging, tongue out, pausing every few steps to sniff the base of a tree or greet a passing dog. There were no bodyguards, no paparazzi swarming behind bushes, just Ryan and Baxter soaking in the serenity. To most people, Ryan was nearly unrecognizable at first glance. Maybe it was the sunglasses. Maybe it was how calm and casual he looked. Or maybe it was the unspoken agreement of New Yorkers not to make a fuss. Still, a few keen observers caught on. A teen sitting on a bench nudged her friend and whispered, "Wait, is that Ryan Reynolds?" A jogger slowed down, glancing over his shoulder. A young woman with a sketchbook tried discreetly snapping a photo without losing her cool. Ryan, being Ryan, handled it with effortless charm. He gave a slight smile, a wave, maybe even a mock superhero pose with the coffee cup held high like a trophy. It was just enough to say, "Yeah, it's me," without inviting a scene. He looked completely at ease, happy even. The kind of happiness that doesn't need loud moments or flashing lights, just a good dog and a few quiet blocks of green space. As he reached one of the park's quieter paths, lined with cherry blossom trees just beginning to shed their petals, he stopped for a moment. Baxter circled a tree, tugged the leash gently, then looked up at Ryan with expectant eyes. Ryan leaned down, scratched behind his ears, and chuckled. "All right, buddy, you lead the way." It felt like a scene out of a feel-good movie, the kind that ends with a montage of laughter, music, and dogs running through fields. But life doesn't always follow the script, because what happened next would flip this peaceful picture upside down. Without warning, there was a sharp metallic screech, followed by the unmistakable sound of tires skidding across gravel. People turned their heads, birds scattered from nearby branches. And just as Ryan straightened up, he saw it, a cyclist barreling down the path, completely out of control. What had caused the crash wasn't immediately clear. Maybe a brake failure, maybe a bad turn. But one thing was obvious. The cyclist was heading straight for a woman pushing a stroller just a few feet away from Ryan and Baxter. And that's when instinct took over. Ryan dropped his coffee. The cup hit the ground and spilled like an afterthought. With no hesitation, he lunged forward. "Hey, watch out!" someone shouted. But it was too fast, too close. Ryan reached the stroller in a single stride and yanked it backward with force, just as the cyclist swerved past, missing the stroller by inches and crashing into a nearby bench. Gasps filled the air. The woman screamed. Baxter barked. And for a moment, everything stood still. The stroller was safe. The toddler inside, wide-eyed but unharmed. The cyclist lay groaning on the ground, clearly shaken. And Ryan? He stood there, panting slightly, one hand still gripping the stroller handle, the other steadying the mother, who looked at him as if he'd just fallen from the sky. "You saved my baby," she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. Ryan blinked. His heart was still racing. He looked down at Baxter, who had somehow stayed calm through it all, and then back at the woman. With a dry laugh, he muttered, "It's okay. I've dodged worse in tight spandex." It was classic Ryan, downplaying a life-saving moment with humor. But those who witnessed it knew the truth. In just seconds, he had gone from quiet dog walker to real-life hero. And this? This was only the beginning of a story that was about to get even stranger. Just as Ryan Reynolds and his loyal golden retriever Baxter reached a peaceful, tree-lined section of Central Park, the serenity of the afternoon shattered like glass. It started with a sound that didn't belong, the high-pitched screech of metal on gravel, followed by the thud, thud, thud of rubber tires bouncing out of control. Ryan turned his head instinctively, just in time to catch the chaos unfolding a few yards ahead. A cyclist, helmet askew, eyes wide with panic, was barreling off the paved trail at full speed. He had clearly lost control. Maybe his brakes had failed. Maybe he'd taken a curve too hard. But it didn't matter. What mattered was where he was headed. Directly in his path, barely aware of the incoming danger, was a young woman walking slowly with a toddler in a stroller. She was chatting softly to the child, completely unaware that in just seconds, disaster would be upon them. Ryan didn't stop to think. His body moved before his mind could catch up. In one fluid motion, faster than anyone could have expected, he dropped Baxter's leash, sprinted forward, and reached the stroller just as the cyclist came crashing toward them. With a powerful jerk, Ryan pulled the stroller back and to the side, mere milliseconds before the cyclist's front wheel would have slammed into it. The force of the sudden movement startled the baby inside, who let out a frightened cry. The woman screamed, and the cyclist, unable to correct course, flew off his bike and tumbled to the ground in a tangled mess of limbs and metal. Then, silence. For a heartbeat, the entire park seemed to hold its breath. Baxter barked once, sensing the tension and standing guard like a trained companion. People nearby, some who had just been sipping coffee or tossing a ball to their dogs, rushed toward the scene. A jogger skidded to a stop. A street musician lowered his guitar mid-note. There was Ryan standing in the center of it all, one hand gripping the stroller, the other gently placed on the mother's shoulder. His sunglasses were slightly askew. His shirt had a streak of dust from the pavement, but he was calm, grounded, as if adrenaline had switched him into protector mode, and now he was easing down. The woman, pale and trembling, looked at Ryan with tears welling up in her eyes. Her voice was shaky when she whispered, You saved my baby." Ryan smiled gently and gave a short nod. He's okay. That's what matters. He glanced at the toddler, who had gone from startled to curious, now looking up at Ryan with wide eyes. The child gave a tiny giggle, completely unaware of how close they had come to danger. The cyclist groaned nearby, trying to sit up. His elbow was scraped, his jeans torn. But thankfully, he seemed mostly unharmed. "Are you all right?" Ryan called out, now turning his attention to the man who had caused the chaos. The cyclist nodded weakly, embarrassed, and waved him off. "Lost control," he mumbled. I didn't see them in time." Ryan nodded again, not angry, just relieved. Happens. Just glad no one's hurt. By now, a small crowd had gathered. Phones were out, some filming, some calling 911. One woman, holding a dog leash in one hand and her phone in the other, whispered, "That's Ryan Reynolds. He just saved that baby." A park officer arrived within minutes, along with a paramedic team to check everyone involved. Statements were taken, photos reviewed, and details confirmed. But Ryan? He didn't wait for the praise. As the officials handled the scene, he crouched down beside Baxter, reattached the leash, and scratched behind his ears. "You kept cool, huh, buddy?" he murmured. "Good boy." Then, standing up and brushing off his jeans, he turned to the mother and offered a smile. Warm, real, and humble. "It's just another day in the park, right?" She laughed through her tears. "Not for me. I'll never forget this." Ryan shrugged modestly. "Hey, I just got lucky with the timing and the reflexes." But deep down, everyone knew it was more than that. It wasn't luck. It was instinct, courage, and humanity, all wrapped up in a moment that could have ended very differently. And just when it seemed like the drama had peaked, a tiny detail would soon take the story in a completely unexpected direction. Because as Ryan bent down to pick up the coffee cup he'd dropped, something strange caught his eye on the ground next to the fallen cyclist's bag. An envelope, sealed, marked with the word urgent. And from there, the walk through Central Park was about to take a shocking turn. Just as Ryan Reynolds and his golden retriever Baxter wandered into a quiet, tree-lined section of Central Park, the calm was shattered in an instant. Out of nowhere, a loud metallic crash echoed through the trees. It was sharp, jarring, completely out of place against the peaceful chirping of birds and distant conversations. Ryan's head snapped toward the sound. What he saw made his stomach drop. A cyclist, traveling far too fast for the narrow gravel path, had lost control. His bike skidded out from under him, the tires locked, wobbling violently. The man leaned hard to one side, trying to recover, but it was too late. The bike veered off course and was now hurtling straight toward a woman walking just ahead. Her hands were on a stroller. A toddler sat inside, swinging their legs gently, blissfully unaware of the danger speeding toward them. There was no time to call out, no time to think. Ryan didn't hesitate. In one lightning-fast motion, he dropped his coffee, released Baxter's leash, and sprinted. It was pure instinct, unfiltered, explosive action fueled by adrenaline. The woman turned only at the last second. Her eyes widened in horror as she saw the cyclist bearing down on her. But before she could even react, Ryan was there. He grabbed the stroller's handle with both hands and yanked it backward, just in time. The cyclist flew past them with inches to spare, crashing to the ground in a twisted mess of limbs and spokes. The bike hit a nearby bench with a sickening thud, finally coming to a halt. A cloud of dust and fallen leaves kicked up into the air, and then silence. For a long second, everything froze. The woman stood still, clutching the side of the stroller, breathing in sharp gasps. The baby began to cry, startled but unharmed. Ryan kept one hand on the stroller, the other steadying the woman. His face was tense, focused, like he was still bracing for impact. Baxter, back by the tree where Ryan had dropped the leash, let out a low, concerned bark. Several people nearby rushed to the scene. Joggers, dog walkers, tourists. Everyone had the same look, disbelief. "Is everyone okay?" someone asked. "I saw the whole thing," another said. "That was insane." The cyclist groaned and tried to sit up. His helmet had stayed on, but his arm was scraped, his jeans torn. He looked embarrassed more than injured. But all attention was on Ryan and the woman. Still trembling, the mother turned to Ryan, her voice cracking. You saved my baby." Ryan, catching his breath, managed a small smile. "He's all right. That's all that matters." Tears welled in her eyes. She knelt down beside the stroller, checking her son, who was now calm but wide-eyed, clutching a soft toy. She kissed his forehead and looked back up at Ryan, overwhelmed. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." Ryan gave a light chuckle, brushing dust off his hands. "It's just another day in the park, right?" The crowd around them slowly started clapping. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a genuine, grateful response from people who had just watched something unbelievable unfold. Some recognized him now. "Wait, that's Ryan Reynolds," someone whispered. "He just saved that kid." Phones came out. People began to record the aftermath, not to sensationalize, but because they knew they were witnessing a moment that mattered. A park security officer arrived a minute later, followed by paramedics who checked the cyclist and made sure the baby was okay. No one was seriously hurt, but the emotional weight of what had just happened was undeniable. Ryan, never one to seek attention, stayed low-key. He answered questions, made sure everyone was all right, and even crouched down to pat Baxter on the head, who had waited patiently through the entire ordeal. "You stayed calm," Ryan said softly to his dog. "Good boy." The woman insisted on getting his contact info, even though Ryan laughed it off. "You don't owe me anything," he said kindly. "I'm just glad I was in the right place at the right time." And just when it felt like the tension was starting to ease, Ryan noticed something strange. As he bent to pick up the coffee cup he'd dropped, his eyes landed on a small white envelope, lying just a few feet from where the cyclist had fallen. It had a single word stamped on it in bold red ink. Urgent. He paused, frowned. Because while the crash may have looked like an accident, this mysterious envelope was about to take the story in a direction no one could have predicted. As the tension began to ease and the park slowly returned to its peaceful rhythm, Ryan Reynolds bent down to help the injured cyclist to his feet. The man winced but accepted the hand. He was scraped up, but it looked like nothing was broken. "You good?" Ryan asked, brushing off the man's jacket. Yeah, I'm fine," the cyclist muttered, glancing around quickly as if checking who might be watching. Then Ryan noticed something odd. A small white envelope, partially sticking out from the unzipped pocket of the cyclist's backpack. It must have fallen out during the crash. Ryan picked it up, intending to return it. There were no stamps, no address, just one word on the front printed in all caps and underlined in red ink. Urgent. At first, Ryan assumed it was medical, perhaps allergy information or some legal papers the guy didn't want to lose. He held it out. "Hey, this fell out of your bag." The cyclist's face drained of color. His eyes locked on the envelope like it was radioactive. He snatched it from Ryan's hand with a rushed, "Thanks," his voice cracking, and without another word, he turned and bolted down the path. No explanation. No goodbye. He didn't even try to take his mangled bike with him. Ryan stood there, slightly stunned, watching the man disappear between the trees. He glanced at a bystander, an older man in a baseball cap who had watched the entire exchange unfold. "Did you see that?" Ryan asked. He looked like he saw a ghost. The man nodded slowly. "Totally. That guy was sweating bullets. I thought he was going to faint when you handed him that envelope." Baxter gave a low bark as if agreeing something wasn't quite right. Before Ryan could process any further, a figure stepped out from a nearby walking trail. He wasn't like the usual park goers. No dog, no coffee, no earbuds. The man was dressed in a long, dark coat, with clean-cut hair and the kind of serious face you only see in movies or government agencies. He walked straight up to Ryan, eyes locked. "Mr. Reynolds?" he asked, his tone quiet but firm. Ryan's eyebrows raised. Yeah?" The man flashed a badge so quickly that Ryan barely caught the letters, but he heard them clearly. Department of Homeland Security. "My name is Agent Keller," the man said, leaning in slightly. "We've been monitoring the individual you just encountered, the man on the bike." Ryan blinked. "Wait, you're saying that guy is under surveillance?" "Yes," Keller replied. "He's connected to an ongoing investigation. We believe he may be involved in the illegal transportation of sensitive information." Ryan glanced in the direction the cyclist had run. "You're telling me that envelope may have contained classified materials," Keller finished. "Or worse, coded communication we're still trying to intercept." Ryan let out a short laugh of disbelief. "Are you kidding me? I thought I was just out walking my dog." Baxter gave another soft bark as if to say, "So did I." Keller didn't smile. "Did you open the envelope?" "No," Ryan replied. "Just picked it up and handed it back. He freaked out and ran." "That tracks with what we expected," the agent said. "He's spooked, which could mean he knows we're close." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "So what now? Am I involved in this?" Keller paused for a moment, then said, "You may be contacted again. If he realizes you saw too much or thinks you're a threat, he could try to recover or destroy anything that connects him to that envelope." "Seriously?" Ryan said, half laughing. "This is turning into a Jason Bourne movie." Keller didn't laugh. "We'd advise you to stay alert. And if you see him again, do not approach. Call this number immediately." He handed Ryan a card with an unlisted government line. "Thank you for your cooperation." With that, Agent Keller disappeared as quickly as he had come, fading back into the park crowd like a shadow. Ryan stood there, coffee forgotten, dog at his side, still trying to make sense of what had just happened. A relaxing afternoon stroll had somehow become part of a federal surveillance operation. And if he thought that was the end of it, he was wrong. Because later that night, as Ryan returned to his apartment and reached into his jacket pocket, he found something he didn't remember putting there. A second envelope. No markings, no address. Just 3 words on the front. You were warned. Within minutes of the cyclist's suspicious escape, the calm of Central Park was transformed into a scene straight out of a spy thriller. Law enforcement arrived quickly. Uniformed officers, plainclothes agents, even a mobile command van that hadn't been there minutes before. The area was sealed off. Orange barricades went up, radios crackled. Joggers and dog walkers were politely redirected as a perimeter was formed around the crash site. Ryan Reynolds stood near a bench, holding Baxter's leash, calmly answering questions. He was composed, but alert. He recounted everything he'd seen. The cyclist's erratic behavior, the mysterious envelope marked urgent, and the moment he handed it back, only to watch the man flee without his bike. A detective took detailed notes. Another officer confirmed that surveillance footage from nearby traffic poles and park cams was already being reviewed. Meanwhile, Baxter, sensing the unease in the air, paced in small circles at Ryan's feet, occasionally letting out low, restless barks. He stayed close, eyes darting between the officers and his human, like he knew something big was going on. And he wasn't wrong. One investigator approached Ryan quietly and said, "We believe the envelope you saw wasn't the one the cyclist walked away with." Ryan's eyes widened. "You're saying he switched it?" The agent nodded. "We think so. It's possible the envelope you handed him was a decoy, maybe even planted. But the original, the one we need, may still be in the park. What exactly was in it? No one could say for sure. Intelligence? Stolen data? A delivery gone wrong? But one thing became clear. Ryan's actions may have disrupted something serious, perhaps even something dangerous. That's when the media caught wind of it. By late afternoon, Twitter exploded with updates. News outlets started posting headlines within hours. The story spread faster than wildfire. Ryan Reynolds saves toddler, interrupts espionage-style exchange in Central Park. Deadpool star becomes real-life hero. Golden retriever Baxter may have foiled spy plot with his nose. Photos snapped by bystanders started circulating. One showed Ryan comforting the mother as paramedics checked her baby. Another showed him calmly talking to police while kneeling beside Baxter, who was being rewarded with a treat from Ryan's pocket. The image practically begged for a caption, and the internet delivered. That's when the memes started. One viral post showed Ryan and Baxter beside a mock movie poster. Reynolds, dog of duty. This summer, only one man and his dog can sniff out the truth. Another edited the moment Ryan lunged to save the stroller into a still frame from The Matrix, complete with motion blur and bullet time effects. But while the world celebrated him, Ryan wasn't looking for the spotlight. When a group of reporters caught up with him outside his New York apartment later that evening, cameras flashing and microphones waving, he stopped for a brief moment to speak. "I was just in the right place at the right time," he said with a small shrug. "Honestly, Baxter deserves all the credit. He pulled me toward that stroller. I just followed his lead." That line, instant meme material. Within hours, Twitter was full of posts like, "Baxter for president. Forget Airbud, we've got Spy Pup now." The real MVP, Baxter the retriever. Major brands got in on the action too. Pet supply companies tweeted offers to outfit Baxter with a custom tactical vest, while coffee shops offered free drinks to anyone who brought in a dog named Baxter. One streaming platform even joked, "We'll greenlight this movie yesterday." But for Ryan, it wasn't about any of that. As the buzz continued online and news channels debated what was really in the envelope, he posted just one thing on his Instagram story that night. A photo of Baxter curled up asleep on the couch, captioned simply, "He had a big day. No glamour, no drama. Just a man and his dog, back home after accidentally stumbling into something bigger than either of them had imagined." And while the authorities continued their investigation, one thing was certain. A quiet stroll in Central Park had become a story the world couldn't stop talking about. And the star of that story didn't wear a cape. He wore a leash, wagged his tail, and might have just saved the day. The story didn't disappear with the setting sun. For days after the incident, the media continued buzzing with updates. Speculation ran wild, but authorities remained tight-lipped. All they would officially confirm was that Ryan Reynolds' quick-thinking actions helped disrupt a planned exchange between two individuals under federal investigation for cybercrime. The envelope, whether it contained stolen information, encryption codes, or a dead drop location, had vanished during the chaos. Surveillance footage was still being analyzed. Homeland Security maintained a heavy presence in Central Park for the next few days, quietly monitoring activity from the shadows. But while the gears of government churned behind the scenes, Ryan Reynolds did what Ryan Reynolds does best. He returned to being himself. He wasn't looking for a movie deal. He didn't hold a press conference. He didn't even post a dramatic retelling of events. Instead, he kept it casual, letting the story speak for itself. A few days later, he broke his silence the only way Ryan could, with humor. He posted a selfie on Instagram, a sunlit photo of himself in the park again, with Baxter sitting proudly by his side, tongue out, tail wagging. The caption? "Today we stopped by the park, saved a baby, accidentally got involved in espionage. Baxter's rating this walk a solid 10/10. The internet exploded again. Fans from around the world flooded the post with love, praise, and memes. Celebrities chimed in. Blake Lively liked the photo within minutes. One fan commented, "Are we sure Ryan Reynolds isn't actually Deadpool?" Another wrote, "Ryan's out here saving toddlers, cracking spy rings, and still managing to look like he's in a rom-com. The man's unstoppable." Memes lit up every platform. One showed Baxter wearing sunglasses and an earpiece captioned, "K9 Agent Baxter, licensed to bark." Another edited Ryan's face onto Jason Bourne's body with the line, "Ryan Reynolds, identity unknown, humor always loaded." But behind the jokes and the digital praise was a real story, one with heart. Because a few days after the incident, something arrived at Ryan's home via courier. It wasn't from a studio or a news network. It was from the woman whose child he had saved. Inside the envelope was a thank you letter, a heartfelt note from a mother who still hadn't quite found the words to express how much his actions meant. She wrote about the terrifying moment, the blur of the bike, the scream, and how she was frozen, unable to move. And then she wrote about how, out of nowhere, someone reached for her baby, not to harm, but to save. The envelope also contained something else, a folded piece of construction paper covered in crayon drawings. It was from her toddler. On it was a big figure, Ryan, with messy brown scribbles for hair, a red cape flowing behind him, and a golden dog beside him wearing a superhero mask. Above it were the words, helped along clearly by Mom, "Ryan and Baxter, my heroes." Ryan smiled when he saw it. He didn't just smile, he framed it. He even posted a story on Instagram of the picture sitting on a shelf in his living room, captioned, "Best fan art ever, move over, Deadpool." And just like that, this wild, unexpected chapter came to a close. Not with explosions or handcuffs, but with crayons, kindness, and a dog who just wanted a good walk. The authorities would go on with their investigation. The cyclist was still being tracked. And the envelope's true contents? Well, that may never be revealed to the public. But what the world did get was something rare, a real hero story in the middle of ordinary life. No script, no stunts, just a man, his dog, and a split-second decision that may have saved more than just one life. And as for Baxter, let's just say he's earned a few extra treats, and maybe his own movie deal. Because on that sunny afternoon in Central Park, something extraordinary happened. And though Ryan tried to play it cool, the world saw the truth. Sometimes the best heroes aren't wearing spandex. They're just walking their dog. And that's how a simple walk in the park turned Ryan Reynolds into a real-life hero. No cape required. If you enjoyed this story and want more unbelievable moments from your favorite celebrities, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a twist like this one. Until next time, stay curious.